allow them to come home safely to their families. Also, watch over the families of those that are serving. Help them through their time of need. Watch over those that are infirmed and cannot be with us today. We ask all these things in your precious Son's name, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you, David. Roll call. Please.
Meredith Fraley. Here. Bill Anglin.
Here.
Bill John Baker.
Here.
Jack Baker.
Here.
Harley Buzzard.
Here.
Julia Coates. Fred McCobb. Joe Crittenden.
Here.
Jody Fishingham. Here. Janelle Fulbright. Here. Don Garvin. Chuck Hoskins Jr.
Here.
Hannah Glory Jordan.
Present.
Curtis Snell.
Here.
Chris Soap.
Here.
David Thornton.
Here.
Kara Callan Watts. We do have a quorum.
We have a quorum. If there are no objections, I entertain a motion to approve both the March 15 subcommittee and the March 26 regular session minutes in toto.
I move it both together.
Moved and second. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving on to reports. First report is Ms. Sharon Wright, Marshal Service. Good afternoon, Sharon.
How are you, everyone? You got my report I submitted. I saw one typo on it, but no big issues have changed. So if you have any questions.
Mr. Hoskins.
This actually may be old news, but I am just becoming aware of it. Oklahoma Highway Patrol Lieutenant George Buddy Lambert is being honored for heroism, and it looks like he did it in cooperation with the Cherokee Marshal back in December. Has that Cherokee Marshal been given a citation or any kind of recognition?
Well, OHP sent us a letter of thanks and recognition to that officer. We don't do our recognition of all of the officers until toward the end of the year, so he'll be up for recognition, but he hasn't received anything thus far.
Well, Madam Speaker, this actually took place in Mays County, and I've got a narrative from the Oklahoma Highway Patrol. I think I'll get to all councilors. It was a Cherokee Marshal who was involved. Thank you.
We need someone to do something here.
I got Carol on the phone. She's getting her one more.
Okay, go ahead, Sharon. I think they can continue. Go ahead.
Well, I've answered his questions, so if there's any other questions, I'll entertain those.
Ms. Fulbright?
Just a point of general information quickly here. I had a request for wanting the Marshal Service to escort a funeral from Sallisaw and Mays County or somewhere up there. Do we ever do things like that? I was out of town and didn't get a message till after the fact, so I didn't request it, but I just wondered.
And I'll say this, escorts that far, no one agency really should do that.
Okay.
What we did do was meet them at Siloam and escort them the rest of the way to the site. And they asked last minute, unless it's a dignitary or some person within the tribe long term, if we did every one of them, we wouldn't have the manpower, so we try to do that. Or if we have plenty of people on duty and that we get a last minute request, and we can do it. But that one was so lengthy, we did not do the entire escort.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Any other questions for Ms. Wright? Thank you very much. Next two reports are from the Justice Department and the GEG report. Okay. Yes, Mr. Baker.
Yes, Madam Speaker. I would like to make a motion to to amend the agenda to include the council policy on reimbursement of travel expenses as item 4 under new business.
Do you have a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion on amending the agenda to include this item, as item 4 under new business? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Okay.
Madam
To
Chair,
included.
Thank you.
and Jack, are you sponsoring?
No.
Is there a sponsor?
I think Kara and Buell, are you also sponsoring this?
I can sponsor.
Okay.
Sponsor whatever.
So who's the sponsor? Clarification.
Kara and...
I'm on now, if you can hear me.
Okay, you're the sponsor of this travel expense policy, is that correct?
Yes, Madam Speaker.
Okay. All right, are we fixed? Okay, and who's the Justice Department person? Oh, there you are, I couldn't see you. You're going to report on Justice and GEG, please?
I can. If we could change that to the Office of the Attorney General in the future, I'd appreciate it.
Okay,
Since
any objections to that? And second, any discussion on changing it? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, this Office of Attorney General.
thank you so much. I appreciate it. We've had a busy month. It seems like it's the time of year when there's a lot of seminars going on, a lot of people speaking. I'm speaking next week at the Native American Economic Development Conference that's being held in Catoosa, and I believe that some of you are attending that. And then we have the Sovereignty Symposium coming up in June. I don't have anything to add to our report on any of the pending litigation or matters that are currently before the courts. I'd be happy to answer any questions. And then including GEG, I don't have anything new on that either. Ms. Wright and I just spoke about it. We haven't received any update from the investigator, so I don't have anything new to report.
Any questions or comments from Ms. Hammonds? Yes, Ms. Fishinghawk?
Yes, last month we'd asked you to talk to us about ICI and the landfill and the liability issue and everything. Or we'd asked Nathan and he said he was going to get with you and he was going to get back to us.
He did tell me. As far as liability, I don't know if we're talking about the business liability and assumptions of some of the things that are going on out there. If so, that Cherokee Nation Business could better speak to you about that. Regarding the pending litigation, there was originally litigation in Oklahoma County District Court, Cleveland County District Court, and Cherokee Nation District Court. The Oklahoma County case was dismissed. The Cleveland County case and the Cherokee Nation District Court case are still technically pending, although ICI and Mr. Pitchland have filed for bankruptcy. So nothing happens. When that occurs, everything is stayed. We have appeared in front of the bankruptcy trustee to make our case. We have also agreed that ICI's claims against us, and recall that although we sued them, they sued us back, and they have alleged bad acts on our part and that we kept them from getting financing, and they're asking for considerable sums of money from us too. We had agreed that their claims against us could be taken over by one of their other creditors, and then we were going to work out something with that creditor. That issue, whether or not that is assignable, what that would do is get rid of all their claims against us. Whether or not that is assignable to someone else is an issue that's currently pending in front of the trustee. So basically, that's where it's at.
Any other questions? Thanks, Diane.
Thank you.
There isn't anyone here from the Election Commission. Now, we do have their report. Moving on to Tax Commission, Ms. Lexton. Good afternoon.
I believe you do have my report. I would just like to add a couple of notes that we are looking at the possibilities and looking at everything at opening a tag office in Jay, and also moving the one from Gore to Southsaw. So just so FYI, if anybody asks you what we're doing, what's going on, we are looking at space and different things up there. Nothing's been finalized yet, but that is what we're looking at. Other than that, if you have any questions on my report, I'd be happy to try to answer those.
Any questions or comments? Ms. Wexton? Yes, Mr. Buzzard?
Sharon, would you be looking at the tag office to work in conjunction with the existing state office there? Or?
No, actually, what we're looking at, we had actually tried to in the past with him and never got a proposal back. What we would be looking at right now is possibly the career services building that's there. They're looking at adding on to that building. So we would be looking at going into that building with them if possible. And that way we could share some of the services such as the T1 line and things like that. So, and it's already an established office. Everybody knows where it's at. So that we thought that would help also.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other questions? Thanks, Sharon. You're welcome. Ms. Hanby, self-governance.
Good afternoon. First of all, I'd like to apologize for last month's report. I didn't realize that that entire packet came over as your report. It was pretty thick, so that was probably more information than you wanted to see. One item that I wanted to brief you on is in regards to the American Recovery Act. We have been in contact with the Self-Governance Office and also trying to get in touch with some folks from the Office of Management and Budget to look at the release or when they expect to release the funding agreement language that's going to be required for us to agree to in order to get any of the self-governance funds through the stimulus. In other words, even though we may have an allocation amount or know what amount of money we could be getting, we won't actually get that until we agree to this language. That's being vetted out by OMB, and they have not released that yet. Also, in regards to stimulus, Callie will be giving an update and providing some documents to you later today at the ENF. We met this week with the Indian Health Service in Oklahoma City, going through some of the transition issues that we have ongoing with Hastings, and we've made progress. And really, most of the issues pertain to closing out on the federal system. Processing through all of the open items that they have to get those through the system, and then whatever is left, we're tracking the carryover to be sure that we get the appropriate carryover that would be left from those purchase orders and items that they're finalizing. So we're working through it, but we've still got some issues that we're tracking on that. And I would entertain any questions that you may have.
Mr. Buzzard?
On the stimulus packages, where is that? Is it waiting for Obama's signature, or is it waiting for the mechanism to fund it down to the tribe? Is the money already appropriated to the federal government? And who are we waiting on? Is it the IHS people or the self-governance people? Or?
Well, there's a provision in the law that states that for the self-governance agreements that there would be additional language that the tribes would have to agree to. And they are making that standard language. And it's my understanding that DOI had submitted some language. IHS had a much briefer set of language that they had submitted, but it has to go through and be released through OMB. So it's really, my understanding, it's at OMB to approve that language to go out. And so that's what we're trying to track is, where are they in that process? How long is that going to be? So that we can, we haven't even seen the language.
So is that for all tribes or just
yes.
Okay, so it's just not self-governance tribes that are waiting on the dollars. And the reason I ask this is, you know, ODOT is already starting to spend money, and I'm not sure if that's stimulus dollars or it's money they had in the bank and they're going to count on stimulus dollars to make the reimbursement to them. So I didn't know how that was working with tribes. So, okay, well, it's a different way, I guess.
Any funds that come through the ISDEA,
Now, will those tribes go to self-governance office or will they go to DOI? Bureau,
as
the road dollars. Will they come directly to us, to self-governance, or will they go down to the bureau, then withdraw from the bureau? Or do you know?
well, keep in mind that tribes have different options now, and there are some that have actually gone directly to federal highway and agreed with them. And then whatever the normal process for you getting your funds will be the same for the Recovery Act. So as it goes through the BIA and released through the self-governance office, you know, through our funding agreement, that's how it would come down for us.
Any other questions? Vicki, on the funding agreement, are there any, is there any room for negotiation, or do they just say take it or leave it?
On the stimulus language?
On the OMB funding agreement?
My understanding is that it's pretty much going to be take it or leave it, which that's almost what you're used to with the BIA, but anyway, and here again, the language that they submitted, the rumor that we got was that DOI had submitted like several pages of additional language. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but that's what we're hearing, that they submitted several pages of additional language, to whereas IHS had submitted like a paragraph. That's where we are. We haven't actually seen any of the language, and I don't know where OMB is in the process, and that's part of what we're trying to track down. And getting one person to talk to at OMB.
Any other questions?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Okay, Vicki, this is Kara Callan-Watts, and I was curious what we were trying to do, if anything, about the Indian Healthcare Reauthorization Act, including state-recognized tribes, and for the first time giving them access to Indian Health Service, so that for $25 you too can be getting our money for Indian Health Service.
And what was your question, Kara?
What are we doing about IHS suddenly including state-recognized tribes in the definition of Indian to get services, health services?
Well, we're working with the Washington office, of course, and the health, Melissa Gower and the health department are actively involved in those issues, as I'm sure you're aware. But the Washington office takes the lead on those types of issues, but we coordinate and work with them in that regard.
Anything else, Kara?
No, that's it, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
Any other questions for Ms. Hamby? Thank you. Mr. Hummingbird, Gaming Commission. Thank you for being here today. It's nice to see you.
I'm glad you get to see me. Old Justin Wilson. Everybody remember Justin Wilson? G-Stan. Anyway, I'm glad to see everybody made it back safely from Red Clay. I hope I got my report in on time. If not, I apologize and I'll get you a copy. Awesome. I'd like to hear that. In addition to what I have in there, one thing I just want to kind of clarify, because I don't think when the attachment made it along with my report, I believe there was a notice in there about the NIGC compliance report. Was that in there? I failed to attach a copy of the compliance report itself, but I can get that to you if you'd like. But I believe the report does kind of give a good indication of what was in that report. It did say that we were in compliance in all of our casinos with the exception of the West Alum Springs Casino. But we had a discrepancy with the NIGC due to a coding error on their behalf. It showed that we were not in compliance with the main casino, but that we were with the smoke shop. The reports that we submitted were coded to the wrong code. Since there was no smoke shop in 2008, there was no reports to be sent in for that time, and the NIGC did not take that off of their database. We are in compliance with the report. We have submitted all the documentation to the NIGC that they require. They have since fixed their coding error, and for future compliance reports, it will be properly reflected that we are in compliance. So I did want to let the council know that we are doing our job, and we are making sure our facilities are in compliance with all NIGC requirements. One thing I also want to let the council make you aware of is next week there's going to be a hearing at the Sequan Gaming Commission, at the Sequan Casino, hosted by the Sequan Gaming Commission in Southern California. And the purpose of that hearing is it's a fact-finding hearing, and it is to gather up all relevant information pertaining to the history and development and implementation of IGRA as it relates to Class 2 gaming. I'm not sure if the council is aware or not, but the tribes in California are under intense pressure from the state government out there to negotiate new compacts, and the tribes are now looking to Class 2 gaming as a viable alternative to renegotiating their compacts. As a result of those tensions between the states and the tribes, Class 2 gaming has come under a little bit more scrutiny out there than it has anywhere else in recent time. The purpose of this hearing is to help those tribes out there, as well as tribes across the country that may need some assistance in figuring out how to approach, review, and approve and implement Class 2 gaming systems. I myself will be in attendance at that hearing. I will be presenting testimony on Friday as to the involvement and implementation and use by the Cherokee Nation, as well as on behalf of the National Tribal Gaming Commissioners and Regulators Association, on how we have approached and how we have seen the evolution of Class 2 take place over the last 12 years. It's going to be a very interesting meeting for those of us that are in the gaming area, because it gets into a lot of historical background in the negotiations of IGRA in pre-1988, how the court cases have evolved since 1988, how we as tribes have come to know those regulations and those laws much better than our counterparts at the state or federal level, and hopefully sets the stage to get a good collection of all this vital information for Class 2. So there's information at the Sequan.com on their website if you're interested in looking at the hearing. I think it's going to be a very, very interesting time. And just a quick side note, I mentioned the National Tribal Gaming Commissioners and Regulators Association. I mentioned at one point I was the chair of that organization. We had elections in March, and I was re-elected for another 2-year term, so I'm back on for a couple more years. So.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But with that, I'll entertain any questions.
Mr. Buzzard?
I just question. I'm curious about the California tribes. Are they is that 100% Class 3 gaming out there now, Jamie?
Right now, it's not 100%. Some tribes have put on Class 2 games for a couple of reasons. One is as a demonstration to the state that Class 2 is a viable alternative. And the second reason is because most of those tribes that have thrown Class 2 games out on the floor have reached their maximum, the machine limit under the current compact that they have. Most of them have a 2,000 machine limit. So to supplement the demand from their patrons, the only way they can add machines is to add Class 2 machines, which are not covered by any compact or are not subject to state review. So I don't know if I would throw a percentage out there, but I know a number of tribes out there have Class 2 gaming operations now.
Ms. Hopkins?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I don't know if you'll be around for our executive finance meeting,
Yes.
but we have on the agenda the issue of licensing gaming and smoke shops. Would you be around to answer some questions?
Yes, I will be here then.
Then I'll hold off.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Hummingbird? Thank you, Jamie. A good, nice, brief report.
I aim to please.
Mr. Hembry, codification.
Well, mine will be briefer than that. No action has
Does that mean
been.
you haven't done anything?
I have been preoccupied with another lawsuit that is pending in court, and not just, to be honest, we have not had a chance to meet on codification. My time's been pretty much been dealing with the election issues in the election lawsuit. So next month, hopefully we'll have something more to report on codification. I apologize to the committee on that.
While you're up there, I realize this doesn't cover codification, but where do we stand on the case that the chief brought forward in responding with an answer? On
Yes,
the term limits, the redistricting?
Right. The briefs, and that's what I've been spending a lot of my time on, is that case. The briefs are due, first round of briefs are due next Friday, a week from tomorrow, May 8th. After that, I wanted to say May 15th. Each side will get to reply to the other's briefs. And then at that point, Judge Cripps Judge Pike will render a decision on, based on the briefs alone, on 2 of the 3 issues. The 2 being whether the staggered terms are appropriate and whether you're on your first or second terms as elected officials. The 3rd issue will require some evidentiary testimony or facts for the judge to consider, and that hearing will take place May 22nd, and Judge Fight has promised us a quick decision on that issue. So by the end of this month, we will there will be issues that are ripe for appeal to the Supreme Court, and I'm sure whatever the outcome is from the district court, that there will be an appealable measure to the Supreme Court.
Thanks, Mr. Baker.
By the end of the month, you mean the end of May?
By the end of May.
Because today's the end of the month for April.
Oh. By the end of May.
Okay.
Mr. Garvin.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Todd, I know you're working day and night on this, but do you need any help that the council can come up with?
Yes, I have contacted, and one of the phone calls that I received is, with the permission of the Speaker, an attorney by the name of Michael McBride. He's an Indian law expert and very knowledgeable, and I've worked with him on Cherokee Nation Tribal Council issues in the past. We do plan on meeting over the weekend, so I'm going to elicit his help. We've sent out a memorandum that if any of you want to chime in or hire attorneys with the funds that are appropriated for that purpose, you're more than welcome. Many of you have contacted me and say if I need to hire additional help, that you would assist me in using those funds available. I do believe that with Mr. McBride, I'll in the resources of his firm, I'll have all the help I'll need. But I do appreciate the offers, and also the memorandum stands. If there's any particular individual issue that you want to, or position that you want to promote, it's well within your purview to do it.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Any other questions? Oh, Jamie, excuse me, I didn't see you. It's a little...
I apologize, Madam Chair. I forgot to mention that yesterday I received word that Jerry Gunner, I'm not sure if anybody is familiar with Jerry Gunner. He was a former gaming commissioner. He resigned for health reasons about a year ago, passed away yesterday. He had been suffering from liver cancer for a long time, and he passed away early yesterday morning. We don't have any word on services or anything of that nature, but if you would just keep Jerry's family in your prayers, I'm sure they would appreciate it.
Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you.
Mr. Thornton, did you have a question for
Yes,
Todd?
for Todd. Todd, then what I'm getting is, yes, you need assistance.
And as far as I'm concerned, yes, you can use the funding.
Appreciate that.
Okay.
And, normally I don't ever seek assistance, but, we all know the importance of this case. I mean, it was stated by all parties at our initial status conference that this is going to be one of the most important cases that the court system has heard, because it deals with the fundamental operation of government. And so I look forward to the briefing.
You will be the lead on that, though, won't you?
Yes.
9, Ms. Raymond, Cherokee Nation Education Corporation.
My name is Shelley Butler Allen. I'm not Margaret Raymond. Once again, would you prefer her to come in as a development director and report out, or?
Her name's down here.
Oh, it is? Okay, because I'm the one that submits the reports and responsible for. Okay, all right.
You will be the one reporting each month?
Well, I report on a quarterly basis, so yes, I will be the one that will report out quarterly.
Okay. All right.
Thank you. Hold on. You have my report in front of you, and I'm here to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions? Shelley?
I see Shelley in the future plans and new initiatives, contract executive director for the Education Corporation. How many people would this executive director be over, and in what capacity would they serve?
The executive director would be over the board of directors, which we have 6 board of directors and 3 honorary board members. So she would directly take her orders, I guess, from the board of directors. Kind of like the way the Heritage Center works. Kerry Tilley is the executive director. However, he.
And will this position be a paid position?
Yes, it will. Well, we're looking for monies. Thank you for asking that question, because we are looking for monies to be able to pay that individual position. We are in the process of thinking about maybe even contracting on a part-time basis someone that will assume the duties and responsibilities, because our corporation is growing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
That was going to be my question, is it growing, and is our applications up this year from last year?
Yes, they are. Thank you. Last year, I'm sorry, I don't remember the number count. We have 100, well, in your report it says 155 applications. So I would say that's about a 30% increase over what we had last year.
Thank you.
Yes.
Do we currently have anyone employed to do this executive director capacity, or?
It's, we have a couple of people, myself as secretary treasurer, I deal with the checks and deposits and the kind of the routine daily operations. And we do have a development director, Margaret Raymond, who is a Cherokee Nation employee, as well as myself.
Well, I was thinking that she was something within the organization.
Yeah, she's a development director. That's her appropriate title. That's why we're looking for an executive director to assume and take charge of our responsibilities that we've been doing for a number of years to get it started. So we might be coming to you all for assistance.
Any questions? Ms. Allen? Thank you.
What up?
This sort of business is old business. There being none pending, move on to new business. Item 1 is an act requiring the Cherokee Nation and State of Oklahoma voter registration application to be made available at Cherokee Nation tag offices. Ms. Count Watts, are you there?
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. I had you on mute to spare you my background noise. So, now, Mr. Hembry, did you want to try to present this so it was maybe a little bit clearer? But I know my intentions were that not only they be provided in our tag offices, but the tag office has to proactively request that at the time anyone is issued a tag, is re-registering a tag. They would have to proactively ask the question and offer a voter registration form at that time.
Mr. Hembry?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yes, the act is is pretty simple. What it would require is that the voter applications be made available and offered to each person purchasing or receiving said tag registration, or an application to register to vote in the Cherokee Nation and the state of Oklahoma. The primary sponsors are Councilperson Callan Watts, Speaker Fraley, and Mr. Anglin. The impetus behind the act is to obviously promote voter registration and voter participation by Cherokee citizens, not only in Cherokee elections, but in the state of Oklahoma elections. This is not a requirement, for the tag. It is a mere make available and offer to.
Mr. Garvin?
Todd, would it be possible to add the clinics to this situation also?
It's open for amendment. It's just whatever the desire of the committee is. With clinics, I guess the simple answer is yes. You could amend it to add clinics, but in its present form, it's for tag offices.
Do we have a motion before we vote?
I'll make that motion to approve with the friendly amendment.
Okay.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Here's the second now. Further discussion. Mr. Hoskin and then Mr. Buzzard.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. What the act does not do, just to be clear, unlike when we go into a state tag office, I think voter law, you register there, you give them the application, it gets processed, they forward it on. I think is how it works. Here, they're getting the application, then on their own initiative, they're sending it to the Election Commission, rather than the tag office assuming the responsibility of forwarding. Is that right?
Right. This is not a motor voter act. This is, you have the applications there, both applications, state and Cherokee Nation. How the act is carried out, obviously will be up to the tag offices to implement, but what I would assume is, upon the completion of paperwork, if you say, we have available for you, ma'am or sir, voter applications for the state of Oklahoma and Cherokee Nation. Feel free to take one if you so choose. A simple script like that, I would be assuming is what they do, but it's not a requirement. The tag office takes on no responsibility to actually fill out the application.
This is just a minor concern. I guess at a tag office, you've got somebody potentially coming in every year. Clinic, you could have somebody that's visiting it frequently, and they are legally have to be peppered with this question. I suppose they could comply with the law by putting up a sign saying, public notice, all patients are welcome to take this voter application guide. Because, would that comply with the law? Does it have to be an oral request, or is that left up to the entity to determine, and we'll see how that shakes out?
The tag or the act itself says to make available an offer. It doesn't specify whether that is a verbal offer or a written offer. I don't want to tell the administration how to administer the act, but I would hope that they would at least put the sign saying making it available, and also especially in the instances of a tag office is to make the verbal request.
Thank you, Mr.
Buzzard.
And that was my thought and question along the same line. We have Sharon sitting back here. Do you have any thoughts on how we could make sure that this gets the questions is asked at our tag office, Sharon? Because I know what usually happens. You go in there and they put a stack over there against the wall, and it sits there full for a year, and nobody ever takes one. But if that person can purchase a tag, or you registered voter, if you'd like to, make it available and ask those questions. And I'm not trying to tell you how to run the tag office, but I would like to see something either written up by you for those clerks to ask those people, because if it's not asked, those people are not going to take this.
And you're correct. The forms are available. They are there. We have moved some of them from over here to up on the counters where when they come up, they can see all the forms. We have the voter registration forms. We have the information on the tag offices. We have the information on tobacco. We have all that information and other things too that's available there for them. Currently, we do not personally ask each one, are you a registered voter? And if we can visit with administration, and I don't have an issue with that as long as there's not an issue with administration
I'd
with us
certainly like
doing
to see
that. I
it.
don't know.
Ask them if they're a registered voter and just make it available to them.
It would just be something that we would have to add to the script, kind of what they say when they
Sure.
meet each customer.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. Bill John?
I mean, if you really want to put teeth in it, we can do like Long John Silver's, and if they don't ask them, they get a free tag.
Yeah. Well, we might want to work on that later.
Any other questions? All in favor? There has been a motion and a second with an amendment that we include the Cherokee Nation clinics in these, along with the tag offices. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries.
Well, by acclamation is an act. For the
By
record.
acclamation, sorry. Item 2 is an act establishing a free and end of press for the Cherokee Nation. There is no sponsor for this. I was asked to sponsor it, but I don't agree with part of it. So since we have no sponsor, unless one of you wants to sponsor this, we'll need to pull it.
Madam Speaker,
Yes.
I agreed to sponsor it with amendments, so it's being worked, and they said they were asking that we withdraw it for this month, and it'll be presented next month with amendments, because I also disagreed with portions of it as presented.
Okay, and do you mind explaining your amendment?
I apologize, I should have had that ready. But the amendments were, I didn't agree with not having I know what they were, not having a minimum standard or a minimum requirement on publishing our travel and some of the other things through, because that was eliminated in the initial draft. So I asked that they put a minimum. And then I also disagreed that they opened up 2 of the 5 board positions, I believe it was, to non-Indians. And I asked that it be all federally recognized tribal citizens, and I think 3 would be Cherokee Nation citizens, and then 2 could be other Indians.
Todd, did you want to?
Well, Madam Chairman, if I will, this kind of highlights the problem that we have when acts are come over without any type of sponsorship. According to our established rules and procedures that this committee has, or this council has passed, acts that are sponsored or initiated by the executive branch must have a sponsor before they are submitted. Now, the reason for the sponsor is to make sure that there is at least someone in the council that agrees with the act in its entirety. So, in the purpose of it is for someone to contact a council person, get their input, make sure that they are on board on all aspects of it, so we don't have this type of situation. It would make the committee process run that much smoother. And plus, it is the Constitution allows this body to establish its own rules and procedures, and this council has done that. And from time to time, we need to remind not only the executive, but ourselves that these rules need to be followed. And that I would wholeheartedly agree with the council that this act and the second one should be pulled from today's agenda, and in the future that whoever, even tribal citizens can initiate acts or legislation, but they have to go through the same process. They have to get a counselor that is in agreement with all aspects of the act before it's even brought to the committee.
Jordan?
So have we pulled number 2?
Kara, you're the sponsor. Are you asking to withdraw?
Yes, Madam Speaker, and my apologies to the committee because I thought I called last week when I got at my book and read through to discuss the amendments and asked about who the sponsor was, and after the amendments we gained some compromise and dialogue. Because there was compromise and it was something I could agree on, I offered to sponsor it. So I had understood through an email exchange that was going to be updated to Shelley to be communicated to the committee, or at least to you, Madam Speaker, So my apologies, but I was late in the game, added as a sponsor because I saw it was without, and I know that's improper to
So
not
the
have
short
that on the
answer is
agenda.
yes, you
But to have it on
want
the agenda without a sponsor, so.
Is the short answer yes, you want to withdraw it?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so that act will be withdrawn, and the third one is, sorry. Act defining nepotism, etc. Well, that doesn't have it as, oh, go ahead.
The third one also does not have a sponsor. I would like to assume sponsorship of the third one for the purpose of pulling the piece of legislation, and I'll get with our legal counsel, Todd, to rework that and bring that back at a later date.
Dr. Cobb?
I received my packet on late Monday night, and as the original sponsor of this bill, I'd like to know what the, and possibly Ms. Hammonds can answer this, back on section 28 CNCA number 10, disclosure of business interest required. I'm just curious as to why that's all stricken.
Dr. Cobb, we have a point of order here.
I don't want to cut off discussion, but are we in discussion now?
No, she's already withdrawn it, unless you want to
I will
hold off.
I will assume the sponsorship and pull it for now, and then we can rework it. Because I understand Todd hasn't even had a chance to look at it.
Okay. All right, moving on. Item 4 is the travel expense policy. Kara, did you want to go into that? I believe you all have a copy of it here in front of us. Kara, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so you should have a copy in front of you where number 8 and number 10 were retained on those items. Is that correct?
Item number 8?
Item number 8 and number 10 were kept in the copy that we should be considering. And I know Shelley and I talked about it, and she should have that, but I wanted to make sure that maybe people had other copies they'd printed off, and I wanted to make sure we were all looking at the same thing.
Yes, that's what I have here. Does everyone have that one? 8, 9, 10, 11 on the last page. Yes, we have it, Kara.
Okay. I really greatly appreciate the opportunity to consider some amendments on our travel policy. After talking with a number of people that may have supported or may not have supported the last version, and also thinking through the logistics of actually implementing what we have in front of us today, or the existing policy that's already been approved, I think it becomes problematic to start measuring mileage from a border to the location, because how do you map a border to verify that mileage, or how do we know like where exactly the border is each time to start maybe logging our mileage with actual miles? So in order to offset the cost that would incur to make it something that could be implemented from home, like a full round trip for official business, I reduced the $500 travel expense allowance within district from $700 to $500. But then, in order to offset the additional cost, that you would then log mileage from your home full round trip to, like, for example, Tahlequah, which would be for me from Verdigris to Tahlequah, and not from the border. So that, and then it also, so that keeps it helps again manage our budget, which was one of the concerns why we amended the travel policy, and then also is inclusive of every council member. So now the at-large, for all the work they do in their local communities where they live, can also be given the same consideration as us. So, and that should address all the amendments, I believe, that are in front of you. And I'll make a motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Now discussion. I have a question, I think, that should be considered. I noticed that the number of trips that a council person can take per year has been eliminated. And to me, that's problematic because 1 or 2 or 3 of us can eat up the budget in just a couple of months. And that restricts travel for the rest of the council people. So is there a reason why that was eliminated?
Well, thank you for the question, Madam Speaker. So I think a number of folks felt like, and myself included, that it could become problematic if the tribe asked you to go on national committees that may not pay for every trip. But it's important we represent. So by the time you do that, unless we're going to just allow exceptions and continually go back as a body to monitor those, then the 3 trips per year was not sufficient. And I think that was the deal. And I asked, we tried to dialogue in preparation for this meeting when I asked a couple people, they weren't even comfortable maybe with setting a budget where we had a certain amount of money to travel per year, that probably wouldn't be sufficient either.
No, I'm talking about...
I think it is an issue, but I'm unsure how to address it, so I left it open because the people will elect us probably based on those things. So,
not in Mays County. The number of trips is within tribal council budget, because you have in here, if you take a trip for another department or another branch of government, that they would pay for that. I'm talking about the travel within the council budget, not the overall Cherokee Nation budget. Yes, please, Connie Gord.
I would offer a friendly amendment that we limit travel paid by the council budget for out-of-state trips to no more than 3 per council member in a given fiscal year.
Does that include all branches or just tribal council?
No, that's just the money that comes out of the tribal council budget. If the chief feels a need to take some of us to such as where Kara is now, to a convention to speak on behalf of the tribe, then I would assume the chief's budget absorbs that. Mm-hmm. And if it is an official trip such as Red Clay, then I would assume that we would not count that in one of the official 3. But if this is a trip for training purposes, then I think that we, in watching the people's money, need to limit those trips to 3 a year. Because one of the reasons that I agreed last month to some of the things, the changes in travel, was to get control of the travel. And now it appears that maybe we're going somewhat backwards. I'm not a big trip taker, and I feel like that the money that's not used for me to do travel needs to go back into the budget to help us with other Cherokee needs. And so I think that 3 trips a year is sufficient on the tribal council's budget. But if there's other trips needed to represent the people of Cherokee Nation, and it's requested by other branches of government, then I would assume that their budget would pick up those costs. And I would offer that as a friendly amendment. I believe Carol was the sponsor and Buell was second. I would offer that as a friendly amendment, as a compromise to this issue.
Kara?
I don't accept, because I just think that we're all elected individually and responsible for ourselves, adequate for some of the work that some of us do.
Then I would put that in the form of a motion
to add
that to the proposed travel policy.
Have a second?
Second.
Moved in second. Any further discussion? Yes, Mr. Thornton?
On your form of motion,
Tanya. You said 3 trips, is that outside the Cherokee Nation, or is that
I'm
outside
saying
of Oklahoma?
outside the state of Oklahoma. I'm giving them even greater leeway because I'm fully aware that there may be some times when you need to go to Oklahoma City or other places within the state, but I think outside the state of Oklahoma, we should limit our trips to 3 unless it's an official trip where everyone is representing the nation, and that those would be designated by our speaker, or unless asked by other branches of the government where they would be picking up those costs.
Sometimes I can see where it may take more than 3 trips. Just 3 trips was set back 15 years ago, or further back, I don't know how far back. But things have changed. Our budget's quadrupled. We've got several different national committees that people want to attend or may want to attend, and that's the only reason that I probably won't vote for this, because you have NCAI, you've got, I don't know, you've got so many different type of national American Indian associations that it's hard to keep up with them, and there's things that you may need to be there for, and I don't think the administration's going to pay for us going to something like that, plus training. So that's just the way I feel about it. Thank you.
You want to respond?
Actually, not a response, but I am persuaded to amend my own motion that in excess of 3 trips outside the state of Oklahoma to be paid by the council budget would be approved by the speaker. That way, if there comes up a 4th trip or a 5th trip where it's needed to send a representative, and there's a particular representative that have exceeded their 3, we would leave that to the speaker's discretion.
For exceptions, is that what you're saying?
For exceptions. First 3 is their business. After that, if they've exceeded the 3, that I think the speaker should use her discretion at that point.
Madam
Folks,
Speaker?
we have to get control. I think I still have the floor.
You do.
Folks, we have got to get control of our travel. Last year's travel was $143,000. What we're doing today, if you pass it, is going to automatically add another $100,000 to that. You're now at $250,000, and that's not even, that was with the limit, and now we're going to do no limit. We've got to get control of this travel. I just don't know how to say it other than that. I was persuaded before in prior months when we talked about travel, because the stipend is an acceptable method of paying travel across the state of Oklahoma. If you go to public offices, county officials, it's very traditional to do it that way. But what you're considering today is taking a stipend plus mileage plus other travel. That means we're right back where we were, out of control again. We have to put some control measures on this travel. We are answerable to the Cherokee people, and I think we are letting it get out of control again. And that's why I provide this motion to you, is at least let's put some limits on the out-of-state travel. And I would add that friendly amendment to my own motion, so I guess I can do that. That any over 3, because you're very right, Councilman Thornton, there may be additional ones, but we need to leave it to the discretion of our speaker. That's what we elected her for, so she can look at the budget and the need.
Mr. Hoskins?
Thank you, Ms. Speaker. I probably would have opposed Councilman Jordan's motion, but for that safety valve, because there will be times when there's some extraordinary circumstance. I was going to suggest that it be put to a vote of the Executive and Finance Committee, but inasmuch as Madam Speaker has to manage this budget and we should lean on her for her expertise, I think it's an appropriate amendment. So I can support the motion with that safety valve.
Ms. Fishing Hawk?
Oh, I was wanting to know, how much did we spend last year on, not local mileage, but travel out of state, out of jurisdiction?
Well, I'm sorry, I didn't hear your question.
How much did we spend the year before this?
I don't have those figures,
Can you
and I
ask
think
Doug?
Doug is, I think Doug's at a meeting. He should be back shortly.
Oh, he's out of the.
And how much have we spent so far since October the 1st this year?
I don't know that. We had it, he gave it to us, but I don't remember what it was. You remember, anyone? We can have some, Shelley, would you ask Doug to get that for us, please? Thank you.
Last year and this year?
Mr. Callan Watts?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would suggest, because of transparency, that either it goes in front of Executive and Finance for a vote, or that it be reported out whether a denial or an approval has been made for the exception, so that it's more transparent to the Cherokee people about the decisions being made on travel if it's outside of whatever our written policy is.
So are you asking her to amend her motion?
If possible, and if it's not going to be a friendly amendment, I would suggest we take a vote.
Carrie, you have to repeat what your friendly amendment is.
Can I interrupt just a moment? Mr. Hembry, did you have a comment in regard to that?
In regard to that, and my understanding of the amendment would, for you to alter your motion would, trips more than 3, your current motion is to be approved by the speaker, correct?
Yes.
Okay. She's asking that instead of trips more than 3 be approved by the Executive Finance Committee. Okay. That would be clarification. Or at least reported by the
I would accept the portion of be reported from the speaker's position within the next month to the Executive and Finance Committee.
And that would be both denials and approvals.
That's fine.
Oh, I would assume it would be all, yes. I would accept that, Kara.
Very much.
Okay. Chuck?
I was.
Okay. And Chris?
Yeah, I think that, well, I'm in support and agreement that there needs to be a ceiling on the travel expenses incurred by one council person. I don't agree with the simple formula of allocating 3 trips. I believe that if you're really interested in talking about maintaining a budget or maintaining spending, that you need to make those allocations through monetary values in terms of dollars versus the number of trips that I could go to some casino in New York, hit a casino in Washington State, and then take a HUD trip to Hawaii, and really spend a lot of money. And I just think that there should be prudence put back on the counselor to stay within a certain budget if that's really our target, and that should be done with a ceiling based upon a monetary value versus a trip quantity. So that's just my input. Thank you.
Is that a friendly motion?
I won't make that motion because the way that you did it in a trip, I'm just saying that I support a ceiling on the travel amount per counselor, but how that actually gets allocated among each counselor and the at-large, I don't know that we've had enough discussion for me to make a recommendation.
Ms. Fishing Hawk?
How much, Meredith, I think y'all told me once, how much is our average trip when we go out of state?
It's 470 something. Is that right, Buell? Do you remember?
No,
out of state?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not sure.
Off to a
I
conference
don't
or
know
something.
that. We just have to ask Doug. Todd?
If I might add to the discussion, Councilor Soap brings up a very important point. The goal of Ms. Jordan is to bring control to the budget. Well, unscrupulous counselor could magnify that by taking a trip to Hawaii. Want to review the treaties of the Cherokee Nation with Great Britain, etc. any number of deals. But what the council may consider is during your, stating the policy that we're going to, that the council will set a budget per counselor for out-of-state trips, and do that at the time the comprehensive budget is, your council budget is made. Because, trips, money's going to fluctuate, obviously, with inflation, et cetera. But if each counselor is given a budget for out-of-state trips, well, they can take one or they can take 12, depending on, if their trips to Arkansas, that's just an idea that Councilor Soap's comments made.
Any other, yes, Ms. Fisher?
Yeah, Gail just now come in here, and she told me the average amount of a trip that I was just now asking about is between $2,000 and $2,500. I knew that Doug had been having her do travel, so I asked her, and she said that was the amount. And I'm wanting to know if Tanya would be opposed to setting a cap like at $7,500 for, you might get 3 trips out of it, you might get 5 trips. If you would be opposed to setting a cap, and that way Doug can do our budget, and he'll know what the limit is, and it won't be the first counselors to take the first trips, and then there ain't no money left for everybody else.
So in clarification on your amendment, so in place of the 3 trips, and then, in place of the 3 trips, you would each have a amount, and you're calling it 7,500?
Because that's the high end.
And when you exceed that, you would seek permission of the speaker to be an exception.
Yes, correct.
Is that what your proposal or suggestion?
That was just a point, but I would be willing to support a measure that was worded something like that.
I would accept that as a friendly amendment.
So you can take as many trips as you want, as long as it doesn't exceed $7,500.
Right, at that point we go to you per year. Right. Since that appears to be the average amount as determined by the staff.
And if there's an exception, then they come to the speaker, and then the speaker reports it to executive finance.
Whether you're approved or denied, either way. Yes, I would accept that.
Does this include joint council or?
It still doesn't include those official trips.
Mr. Barber?
Does that include the membership fees to different organizations?
No, this is just travel, so. I guess maybe I don't understand your question.
Well, you go to NCAI, they always have a fee of $450 or $600.
That wouldn't come under the category of travel, was it? Would it?
Is that membership, or is that what you pay to go for the conference?
It's membership. You have to be a member to go.
Okay.
So that wouldn't affect travel? Membership?
No.
This is going, staying, and the per diem, and all those
That's the way I
other things.
understand it.
Kara is, Madam Speaker, I guess point of order, Kara is signaling something.
Oh, Kara, sorry, Kara. Are you there? Kara?
Well,
I hate to be a bother, but we make these rules, not only for this council, but councils in the future. And no, not making any offense, Madam Speaker, but we're going to need, we're going to need someone to approve your travel. You leave it up to one person to approve. Well, what if the next speaker is the one who's taking?
Don't send it over to Chad.
What's the next person? What if the next speaker wants to take it?
Normally do is Cherokee BNF.
The chair of the
Yeah, the chair of BNF approved the speaker, and I could, that's a good. How's that?
yeah.
Yes.
Do we need that as an amendment? I think Jack's offering another friendly amendment, that the speaker's travel would be approved through executive finance chair.
Okay.
And I would accept that.
Mr. Baker?
Madam Chairman, restate this motion.
Madam Speaker, before you do, I apologize. I think
We're having the.
I think they're having difficulty hearing, and I don't know if we can resolve it.
While we're waiting, could Shelley?
It might take a little bit for you to restate it.
I still think it's fairly simple.
I think I got it, but I'm sure. Tell me if I'm right. Okay. Council travel expense is limited to $7,500 per council member outside of the state of Oklahoma. If exceed $7,500, must get approval or denial from the speaker. If it's the speaker's travel, must get approval or denial from the chair of ENF. Denial or approval must be reported at the next executive finance meeting. The $7,500 does not include joint council trips, and if you are asked by a different department, that department pays, and it does not include membership fees. Is that it?
Good luck on that part. Because when Chad asked me to go, I pointed out that ought to be, and y'all know we don't do that. So, and that's another question for another time.
Is everyone clear? Yeah, Mr. Anglin.
And I just want, I think this will work really in the end, because this is strictly just a policy, and if it doesn't work later, well, we can always change it because it's in our house now, so I think we can always tweak it if everybody will just live with it.
Not there yet. Mr. Crittenden?
Just a thought, Madam Speaker. We traveled around the world almost on these 3 trips, whatever trips. If you take $7,500 per council person times 17, at a minimum, you've got $127,500. We've also got $102,000 in this vehicle allowance, raise, whatever you want to call it, that we haven't even discussed yet. So we're at $229,500 before we turn in any travel vouchers for local mileage and whatever. So, I mean, I just wonder where that's all going. Just something to think about. That's all.
Mr. Stokes?
Yeah, I think that's a potential, Councilman Crittenden, but I think that it's also, it just establishes a ceiling. As Councilor Gloria Jordan stated, if she wants to improve her expense and her travel, she may not spend the full allocation, although it's within her option to do that, but she may not fully spend that. So if everybody kind of has something to make at the end, it wouldn't be that total, I don't believe, but it could be. It may very well be all wanting to maximize their travel. Historically, though, I think if you look at it, that's not the case, but
Well, can I?
Sure. Go ahead.
But, Chris, we had a policy, or we do have a policy that was, some of us found pretty simple. We had a three trip minimum, or limit. We had a travel policy on local travel that we didn't claim mileage in our district. And some of us understood that, I think. And that was pretty simple. But there was seemingly some other thoughts involved, which pushed that total dollars expended for local travel way above what it might have been otherwise. So your point's well taken, but where Ms. Jordan may use half of this, there may be others that'll use twice that much with speaker approval or whatever, ENF approval, to make trips. So it may be a wash, what we're talking about.
Mr. Garvin?
I just wanted to see if she still wants to talk to Kara.
Kara? Joe?
I don't think either one of them here.
They're calling out there.
Ms. Fishing Hog?
Yeah, I got a question about why we changed the amount from the 7 and 5 to the author sponsors.
We can't get her on the
The only thing I know, Councilor Fisher-Hawk, is that it brought it more in line of the average of what everybody had been basically spending in their travel, in-district travel.
But we're still taking mileage.
You take mileage if you go outside of your district. But you'll have to also log that and keep track of it.
Who seconded that, your motion? Jody, do you accept these amendments?
Yeah.
I can vote on it without Kara being available.
Well, at this time, I'll go ahead and call for a vote. I think we're ready. I think
questions been called. All in favor? On your motion.
Yeah, just my motion.
Okay, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I have another question on item 6. Mileage forms shall be submitted to the tribal council staff and reports shall be a public record. How often, Bill, maybe you know since Kara can't hear us, how often, is that monthly or yearly, since we have a monthly stipend now, so to speak? I'm assuming that these mileage reports are to establish a basis for what is reasonable. So do you do that monthly, bi-monthly, yearly? How should we report? You suggest we should report those?
I'd be honest with you. If you're asking me the question, I think it should be monthly. But if somebody doesn't provide them monthly, quarterly or something, I don't know. I do mine about every 3 months. That may not be right, but.
Todd, maybe you can respond to that. Item 6.
Well, I would, by all means, request that there be some type of time frame, because if you just leave it out there, well, I may only want to submit my mileage forms to be a public record once every 4 years, once a term.
So you don't know then what the intent are?
I have no idea about the intent, no, but I think that monthly is reasonable.
Well, my point is, Buell does his 3 months at a time. We've had people that turn them in all at one time, but in my opinion, the key phrase is mileage reports. Whether you turn yours in monthly or quarterly, as soon as it hits and you ask for reimbursements, then it's public. And I don't know that, you have to say, okay, you've got to report your mileage within 30 days or it's gone. Because some people just don't do it that way. And I don't know that we need to legislate how quick people do the paperwork, but that's just me.
Okay, Mr. Hoskin.
Yeah, I would agree to not legislate a hard and fast time frame, and if we do, I think it should be more than monthly, perhaps quarterly, but I think Councilman Maker makes a good point about it gets the public when
Legislation that I have seen, it's yearly, once a year, at a certain period of time, like in May or...
that they're published or that they're required to be submitted.
required to be submitted.
I mean, it would be good to be in the same budget year, don't get me wrong, but, and that's what a lot of them used to do, was they just keep them and then turn them in one time during the year and all, but I hate to see it's legislated monthly.
Mr. Soap? Were you just waving or what? Mrs. Thornton?
In the past years, it's always been, you have to at least have your mileage in at the end of September, because of the new year comes in. So any mileage that you use went back on the budget of that year. Usually it's kind of open if you want to put it in 3 months or 4 months or 6 months or a year. There were some councilors in the past, I don't think there's anyone on here now that did turn it in once a year. I think at least
by September.
At the end of September, October 1.
Just putting something up, or maybe the lawyers in the room, y'all can answer. Where we get $500 for in-district travel, and then it says below it on number 5, for total miles driven on the trip. Am I reading that to say we get 500 for in-district travel, plus we get to turn around and bill for part of the trip over here again? I want to make sure nobody's...
Can I pop point of order on you just for a second? We're on number 6, and nothing has been decided on that yet.
Okay.
I would entertain a motion for like a year or reporting yearly.
I'll second that.
Okay, I'm gonna turn the other line off,
Saying
and
aye.
keep this.
Well, point of clarification. Point of clarification.
I'll just leave it,
I'm
okay?
sorry, I didn't open up for discussion.
I'm sorry. Do I
Sure.
have the floor, Mr. Speaker? Are we talking about the mileage form that they turn in to get a reimbursement from the...
Item 6, we're talking about item 6. And the purpose of submitting those was to establish a basis for review, I'm assuming, because there's a requirement in here for review. And I'm assuming it's established reasonable, what is reasonable for the amount that we're being paid for
Okay,
mileage.
so what is this mileage form going to contain?
Just what we have, I'm assuming.
I thought the mileage form that they were talking about in number 6 was if you claimed in addition to the stipend that's talked about. Is that right?
That's the way I understand it.
Well, I
Yes,
would,
Counselor, you're absolutely correct. It was actually the mileage report pulls in item number 5, as Counselor Fisher often said. Because the mileage form would only pertain to if you traveled outside of your district to something, then you would do actual mileage results.
Oh, I didn't understand it that way.
Yeah, well, that's the way I'm reading this. So
where did the 500, how did we come up with $500?
that was in-district travel.
So what if you travel a lot more next year and you need $600?
Well, it's a
How are you
policy, so
gonna
we can always
justify
change
it?
it. We can have, if somebody's going, well, we're not making, we're not getting enough for travel, well, then we could always change the policy. I think it's a fair, equitable amount, at this rate.
Mr. Thornton?
I'd like to add to my motion that be the physical year for the Cherokee Nation from October through September.
October through September, fiscal year, okay. Mr. Baker?
Madam Chair, and that would include, there's a certain amount of time in October that we still have to report through September. So it doesn't mean it has to be reported by September 30th, because we still have, I forgot how, maybe 30 days or so to turn in the expense accounts for September so that it's in the proper fiscal year.
So your point is
that we can't say that they have to be done by September 30th of the year. It's that they have to be done in order to be charged to the...
no later than September 30th.
Well, no, it needs to be charged to the proper fiscal year. For example, September's expense account could be submitted in October, but it's still charged to the previous fiscal year because the books have not been closed out.
Okay.
Could we use October 15th? That's before the end, but that
Well, I would say the closing date of the Cherokee Nation.
Mr.
I was
Hodgson?
going to suggest on a fiscal year basis, and then whatever the practice is, we'll take care of that.
Any other questions or comments? Yes, Ms.
I'm still trying to grasp that what we're saying is that people can hold their itemized mileage for almost a year, then throw it in there at the last minute when they're trying to close out the books.
Yep.
And who made that motion?
That's what it's been.
I would ask that you maybe think about a friendly, I'll just put a friendly amendment out here, that you at least have to do it every 4 months.
Okay.
That's not even
Excuse me.
close.
If you do that for 4 months, okay, at the end of the year, then you're holding 4 months. How long are you going to hold it? I mean, the same thing.
Well, turn it in by the end of
Who's
the
in here
fiscal
that's turning
year.
it in once a year?
I don't
Does
know.
anybody?
But we're making this policy where there might be other future councils that are gonna look at it.
Well, if the funding's there and been appropriated, what makes the difference?
I just think that it would be a little better for reporting purposes if it came in at least every 4 months, which is not even quarterly. Quarterly would be every 3 months.
Do you accept that amendment?
I-
I don't think people feel better. No, I don't. We'll find out when we do. I'd call for a question.
I think the way Mr. Hoskin framed it in a more of a general sense, I believe that kind of takes care of it. Mr. Barton?
I like that fraction 1/3 every third list and fourth list. Not a quarter, but go third list. Good idea. Something different.
Has the question been called?
No. Any other comment? Yes, Mr. Hoskin?
I thought Mr. Boyd called the question, so I would call the question.
Question's been called. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
And
What are we voting on?
6? We're just voting on 6?
Yes, item
No,
6.
put me down as no.
Okay. Kara, we're voting on item 6. You have it in front of you?
Yes, so it's just whether to accept it or not?
We voted on how often we reported our mileage.
That's the only thing we voted on?
Item 6.
Then put me down as no, because Doug says it makes too much trouble with the books.
I'm sorry?
Put me down as no.
Oh, okay. Ms. Fisher, no, you know. Okay. Okay, Kara, you're back in here, aren't you?
Well, that's what we were on hold listening to the gospel music for like 10 minutes. So did we vote on that other emotion as well?
No.
No.
And I can see Julia, she's not on either, it looks like.
The motion that,
Oh, yes, we did.
Chris.
Read the motion to her, and this was approved, Kara, this motion that Shelley's going to read.
Okay, thank you.
Council travel expense is limited to $7,500 per council member. If exceeded, they must obtain approval from the speaker. Speaker must obtain approval from the exec and finance chair. Approval and/or denial must be reported at the next exec and finance meeting. This cap of $7,500 does not include joint council meetings or membership fees. If the department requests travel, it doesn't come out of the council budget.
Oh, that's excellent, thank you.
Mr. Baker?
And so we're just voting on the reporting period being 4 months or 3 months now?
Once a year. If you want to turn them in every month, you can, but the requirement is once a year.
Okay, and I need to record my vote then on that, right?
Yes, please.
I vote no.
Okay. That's 3 no's. Now, Mr. Baker?
Yes. On the amendment that we approved, it should say $7,500 per fiscal year. There was no, it just said 7,500, but we need to say per fiscal year.
Per term one.
If I understood right, where you said the $7,500 per fiscal year to be, any in excess to be approved by the speaker, I think when you said speakers to be approved by executive and finance, you meant when she exceeded that amount. Okay. Not every time.
Jack for approval.
Not every time, but when, yeah.
Okay, any other comments or
I call for
questions?
a question on the original deal.
Question's been called with these amendments, correct? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
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 Aye. So, Tina, Phil. Okay, motion carries. Okay, item.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
We just approved this.
With those changes.
Okay, we approved the one last month that went into effect on the 14th.
This is,
When will this go into effect?
when it passes council.
No.
No.
This is the policy.
Legislation to immediately.
It'll be 700 from the 14th to the 30th, and from the 30th on, it'll be this.
Okay.
They'll just they'll divide it through the math.
So this one takes the place of last month.
Yes.
Okay. One more comment. And when we talked about it last month, and I suggested that we do a yearly review, I didn't mean tomorrow, which would be May of this year. I meant we'd see a full cycle and then we would review it after the full cycle. Some people have thought we were going to review it starting in May of this year, but we have nothing to review. We won't have anything to review until next year.
Is May a good month to do that?
I think, was May what we voted on? I believe May was what we...
But is May a good month? Since we, to determine if we need more money or less money or whatever.
Well, it would put us halfway through the year, so you could kind of judge from, or a little more.
Maybe one more. Hold on. I'll bring it back next month. You recall that we passed a policy, was it a policy or a resolution where after an election, if you are not successful, you cannot take any more trips. Because I think one time some council people did that, and they went to wherever and wherever and wherever, had a good time. But it wasn't for tribal council purposes. That's what it was styled as. But I'll just bring that back.
I was going to say, Speaker, can we just make that a policy later on, and then this policy, because now we can do that here yourself.
I think it's 7,500.
Okay, announcements, Mr. Garvin.
That's the motion that we adjourn.
All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. I guess.